Tonight on The Buzz, we are talking about collaboration, state-of-the-art tools to enable groups of creative people to work together during post-production. We start with Alan Hoff, the Vice President of Market Solutions for Avid, on why Avid pioneered editorial collaboration almost 20 years ago, and how they've expanded their capabilities in today's Media Composer and Pro Tools. Next, Alissa Johnson is the Senior Product Manager for Adobe's collaboration platform, which is the foundation supporting Adobe Premiere Pro, After Effects, and Media Encoder. Tonight, she explains why Adobe is so interested in collaboration and what technology they are watching for the future. Next, Emery Wells is the co-founder and CEO of Frame.io, a video review and collaboration platform. They support more than just editorial teams. They allow teams scattered around the world to watch, review, and comment upon video and still images. Tonight, Emery explains why this is only the beginning of where collaboration will take us. All this, plus Tim Standing, the VP of Mac Software Development for OWC, with an in-depth report directly from inside Apple's WWDC, and James DeRuvo with our weekly doddleNEWS update. The Buzz starts now.
Since the dawn of digital filmmaking,
authoritative.
One show serves a worldwide network of media professionals.
Current.
uniting industry experts,
Production.
filmmakers,
Post-production.
and content creators around the planet.
Distribution.
From the media capital of the world in Los Angeles, California, the Digital Production Buzz goes live now.
Welcome to the Digital Production Buzz, the world's longest-running podcast for the creative content industry, covering media production, post-production, and marketing around the world. Hi, my name is Larry Jordan. We began planning the show while touring the halls at NAB last April. At that time, we saw a trend to support teams located around the world collaborating on the same projects. This has been true in the VFX industry for a while, but it is only recently that it has moved out of the high end of video editing into the broader market. Tonight, we start with the pioneer in editorial collaboration, Avid Technology. But the story is much bigger than one company, as you'll discover. Before we start, though, I want to invite you to subscribe to our free weekly show newsletter at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Every issue every week provides quick links to the different segments on the show, plus articles of interest to filmmakers. Best of all, it's free and comes out every Saturday morning. And now it's time for our weekly doddleNEWS update with James DeRuvo. Hello, James.
And once again, Larry, happy Thursday.
And happy WWDC week.
Indeed.
So what have you got for us?
All of the announcements at this year's WWDC were all software-centric. They did this like 2 years ago, too. So I think it's kind of a TikTok type of thing where they didn't announce any hardware. They just announced a whole bunch of software improvements to Mac OS and iOS 12. Mac OS Mojave had some really cool features that editors are going to love, including a dark mode. Basically invert the color scheme on your desktop so that it is dark instead of bright radiating light that comes right into your face. The other cool feature that I liked was called Stacks, and that's going to be able to eliminate the desktop clutter. If you're one of those people that has a million icons all over your desk, you'll actually be able to organize your icons into little stacks. That's going to be a really nifty feature to eliminate all of that desktop clutter. But I think the one that you really are going to like are the security features, which includes turning off all of the sharing options when you're online. They've discovered that the notion of liking, sharing, and that type of activity is being tracked, and they can learn a lot about your online activity through your sharing of or liking a story. And so they're turning it off, just turning it all off, and then you have to opt in to be able to do it. And I think that's not only going to be great for privacy, it's going to eliminate a lot of time suck, which is going to be really cool. iOS 12 gets some really cool features, including group FaceTime video chat. You'll be able to do a video chat for up to 32 people. That's a lot. And you'll be able to customize your own emoji. As if we weren't narcissistic enough as a society. What I think is cool about it is you'll be able to use those emojis in your FaceTime chats, in your message chats. It's the next step closer to using your iPhone as a motion capture device.
I have two questions. First question is, was there anything for filmmakers announced?
Not really.
And what about the rumors that macOS and iOS were merging?
Well, Apple's Craig Federighi emphatically declared that iOS and macOS weren't slowly converging. But in his announcement, he did say that some iOS features are going to be a part of the macOS SDK. So that leads me to believe that eventually, I think iOS is going to take over, whether they say it is or not.
I'm not sure I agree with you, but you're absolutely right that they're allowing more iOS applications created by Apple to run.
Yeah, it's going to be available app-wide in 2019. They're starting off with Apple's own set of apps so that they can turn around and shake loose all the bugs, and then they're going to release it to all the developers next year.
Cool. Well, there was more than just WWDC this week. We also had Cinegear. What happened there?
At Canon's booth, they are offering a full-frame sensor upgrade for the new Canon C700. That super 35mm top-of-the-line Canon Cinema EOS camera was upgraded earlier this spring to full frame. And what Canon is doing is they're kind of following Red's lead by offering those who pre-ordered the C700 and anybody who's bought the C700 until the end of June will be able to upgrade to the full-frame sensor for just $2,500.
Okay, what else was announced at Cinegear?
Well, Panavision also announced the expansion of their DXL2 cinema camera. This is based on the Red DSMC2 8K platform. The Panavision DXL2 cinema camera will now offer a modular expansion accessory kit that includes light color support, motorized lens control, wireless time code, and support for the Primo HDR viewfinder. And Panavision also unveiled this cool new device called the adjustable liquid crystal neutral density filter, which will go inside the DXL2 and it'll instantly adjust up to 6 stops of dynamic range, basically making it completely unnecessary to ever carry a set of ND filters again.
So what other stories are we following this week?
Other stories we're following this week include we've got a great review of LumaFusion's editing software for iOS. It works with the Narbox external hard drive. There's a story on how to build a gear cart for under $100 to keep you organized on set. And you'd be surprised how easy it is to crash that expensive drone you just bought.
And where can we find these and other stories?
All these stories and more can always be found at doddleNEWS.com.
And James DeRuvo is the editor-in-chief of doddleNEWS.com and joins us every week. And James, as you reported, this week Apple is hosting their annual Worldwide Developer Conference, so I thought it would be interesting, after hearing your report, to go behind the scenes at WWDC and get a sense of what the developers are thinking.
I can't wait to hear it.
Tim Standing is the Vice President of Macintosh Software Development for OWC. He's been writing drivers and storage utilities for macOS since 1986, and he's the creator of SoftRaid for macOS 10. He is also attending Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference in San Jose. Hello, Tim. Welcome.
Hello.
Yesterday was like Christmas for Apple developers, the Worldwide Developer Conference. What was it like being in the room?
Everyone was so excited at the beginning. You know, you could just feel the tension in the air. Developers often are in large organizations where they're the lone or one of a few champions of Apple. And so to be in a room where everyone is a champion of Apple and Apple technology is just infectious. It's like being at a football rally. Everyone was just so excited to see what was going to come out and what was going to get announced.
Most of us focus on media creation, but I want to have you take the point of view of a developer. Looking at it as a developer, what were the big announcements at the keynote?
Improvements in the store. Keep in mind that most of the people there are developing applications for either iPhone or iOS. So any change to the store impacts them a lot. just general enhancements that are going to make it easier for developers to sell things on a subscription model and just to reach their customers. One of the things that they introduced, which is just going to be in sort of trial by Apple products only for the next year, is the ability to run iOS games on a Macintosh. For products where there's sort of a niche and they don't want to actually make a macOS product, it increases the number of places their audience, their target audience.
So a lot of the big news was ability for the developers to improve their business as opposed to just simply develop cool software.
Yes, that's right.
Now you are a software developer, but OWC makes hardware. What's the value to OWC of having you attend the conference?
I want to keep my pulse on where macOS is going. We don't have any iOS applications, but we have a lot of products either we're shipping or in development that are pretty deep in the operating system. SoftRate, of course, being the most notable example. And Apple over the last 6 months has changed, or actually over the last year, has changed how we have to interact with the operating system. Most noticeably with the iMac Pro, where they sort of keep us from updating our driver. The major thing I've come here for is to try and influence their direction so they're not quite so draconian in their decisions. And also, I come here because APFS has been out for almost a year now, and it has really not had great performance on rotating media on hard disks. One of the announcements was they had optimized APFS for hard disks, and I want to find out what they mean by optimized, because there are a couple key design decisions I asked them to change, and they basically said no. And the most particular one is copy on write, which is this magic ability to duplicate a huge file in 3 seconds. It comes at a huge performance cost on rotating media on hard disks. So I asked them to disable that for volumes based on hard disks, and they flatly refused, and I want to see if they've reversed that decision.
In addition to the ability to make money, which is critical to any business, what were the developers buzzing about after the keynote as you talked to people in the halls?
They had a huge push on augmented reality. I think we're going to see a lot more AR stuff, augmented reality stuff, both in games and in productions. And I think that a certain segment of the video production group will start making stuff for augmented reality. You could imagine shooting stuff on green screen and then turning that into AR content that then gets incorporated into a game or into a virtual or augmented reality space. Apple announced a new file format that's open standard for augmented reality content. Adobe announced that they're going to adopt that file format for upcoming Creative Cloud products. So with the might of somebody like Adobe behind it, you can imagine that it's going to come into the market, come into the content creation space pretty rapidly. But I think it is what's coming next. It will take a couple of years, but we're going to start seeing it, and it will be the next thing that motivates our whole business, our whole industry.
For people that want to learn more about the products that OWC has available, where can they go on the web? OWCdigital.com is the main landing page for products, and MacSales.com is the place to go if you want to purchase something. And Tim Standing is the Vice President for Mac Software Development at OWC and is currently sleepless on his 4th day at the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference. Tim, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Here's another website I want to introduce you to, doddleNEWS.com. DoddleNEWS gives you a portal into the broadcast, video, and film industries. It's a leading online resource presenting news, reviews, and products for the film and video industry. DoddleNEWS also offers a resource guide and crew management platform specifically designed for production. These digital call sheets, along with their app, directory, and premium listings, provide in-depth organizational tools for busy production professionals. DoddleNEWS is a part of the Thalo Arts community, a worldwide community of artists, filmmakers, and storytellers. From photography to filmmaking, performing arts to fine arts, and everything in between, Thalo is filled with resources you need to succeed. Whether you want the latest industry news, need to network with other creative professionals, or require state-of-the-art online tools to manage your next project, there's only one place to go: doddleNEWS.com. Alan Hoff is the Vice President of Market Solutions at Avid. His 20 years of media industry experience includes Senior Product Management at Avid, Strategic Marketing at Sea Change International, and CEO of Cinedec. Hello, Alan. Welcome back.
Hey, Larry. Nice to be here. Thanks.
Alan, your title is VP of Market Solutions. What does that entail?
In other organizations, it would be considered product marketing. So we're partnered with product management to understand the requirements of our customers and identify what the key trends in the industry are and put together product solutions. So of course we have product managers that drive the pro tools, drive Media Composer, et cetera. But what we had found was lacking was something that kind of took an umbrella end-to-end view of looking at a workflow solution set view, which is why you saw such increasing emphasis from us on our alliance partners and working well with others, because we understand that our customers, in order to get their jobs done, need to not just work with Avid tools, they need to work with tools from a variety of different manufacturers. And so we're always looking for ways to build market solutions as opposed to simply product solutions.
Well, that gets me to the theme for today's show, because we're talking about creative collaboration in post. What does collaboration mean to Avid?
It means everything to us. Clearly, our focus begins with individual creative artists. It's then all about how we enable those creative artists to create their best work in the context of a team. And we're seeing the results of that focus play out, because so many of the productions that we're seeing today are created by way of collaborations, whether it's large audio and video teams working on blockbuster films like Avengers: Infinity War, or Grammy-winning artists like Maroon 5 working on their next album. They all were created with creative teams working in collaboration with Avid tools.
Avid has been in the forefront of allowing teams to work together on the same project, probably longer than anybody else in post. Why?
Without getting too hyperbole-like here, I think we really did pioneer the world of team editing, which was all about allowing more than one editor to work with other editors, because frankly, what the work required and demanded. We always knew that the individual editor was going to need to work within the context of a professional post workflow, because you've got sound work going on and color finishing going on, et cetera. What we really wanted to focus on was making multiple editors work together during the editorial process to try to create the content as quickly and elegantly as possible. And there are two major components there to how it is that Media Composer sort of became the leader in terms of collaborative workflows for nonlinear editing. The first, obviously, is our shared storage. So we introduced Unity well over 20 years ago as a centralized storage product, which was a huge leap forward for how post teams could work together. That's where collaboration evolved from being just a fluid linear workflow into a situation where creative teams could work in parallel and rapidly accelerate the post process. One of the direct results of that, it's not a coincidence that about the same time reality television production really took off. So you had shows like Survivor and Amazing Race, which had enormous shooting ratios, extremely tight deadlines as ever. And the only way to pull that off was with a small army of editors and assistants and producers all working in parallel in an environment that was intuitive and responsive and very stable. And to this day, our intelligent storage products from the original Unity systems, many of which are still actively in use through our latest Nexus line, form the backbone of thousands of production environments. But that was only half the story. Despite all the focus on storage in the storage file system, it's been our bin model. The Avid bin model was really the magic behind helping editors to collaborate effectively on the same project. That's proven out by how prominently Media Composer and Nexus are deployed throughout professional post and broadcast. In those environments where you have media and media asset management are things that have to be completely reliable and not disruptive to the creative process. And editors are able to work together without really even having to think about how they're sharing clips, how they're sharing bins with assistants or other editors. It just sort of happens. And that's when I think it's a real successful implementation, when the tech kind of gets out of the way and allows folks, especially multiple personalities and personality types, coming together in a creative team to work on delivering a project.
Well, I know that Avid began collaboration, as you mentioned, with the Unity and the Unity network, but does this mean that for us to collaborate today using Media Composer, we have to use all Avid gear?
No, you don't. As I mentioned at the outset, when we were looking at our workflow solutions, we had to make sure that we played well with others. And we've discussed how Media Composer and Nexus are key parts of the post environment, but Nexus also fully supports Adobe Premiere, FCPX, DaVinci Resolve, Edius, and even our own DAW Pro Tools. None of those third-party solutions have the same level of bin sharing capabilities of Media Composer, but you can nonetheless have them be part of a hybrid workflow, as people often do. And supporting third-party products is obviously a good thing, because it gives our creative team customers more flexibility in how they want to work on their different projects. And we're not so foolhardy to think you need to have an Avid-only work environment.
Let me flip the question around. Let's say that we wanted to work in a Media Composer environment exclusively. Do I have to use all Avid hardware?
In order to get the best results, you would want to do that, but no, you're not required to do that.
Alan, explain to me what it was that you announced at NAB and at your Avid conference about the next step in collaboration.
We announced something called Media Central Editorial Management, which is now available. We consider this the next evolution in post workflows. And while technically you'd classify it as asset management, it's more like collaboration management, as it does things that have never been possible before. And that's quite a claim, but I'm prepared to back it up. I mentioned Avid's bin model was really a key part of how we made collaborative post easy and reliable. But even the Avid bin model is limited to a world where you need both a Media Composer system as well as someone who's been trained to use Media Composer. The game-changing part of editorial management is something called the new hyper bin architecture that it brings with it. Simply through an easy-to-use web user interface called Media Central Cloud UX, anyone can browse and search any of the media that they have access to on Nexus. But more importantly, the user can also create Media Composer bins and folders right from that same web UI. So that means an assistant could literally be moving dailies around and prepping bins for an editor from anywhere in the world, provided they can get to the network that the Nexus is on. Media management, something that most editors don't want to spend a whole lot of time on, can now get distributed out so that something the entire team can take part in. Again, you don't need a Media Composer or someone trained on how to use a Media Composer. But of course, that being said, Media Composer editors also get to enjoy some additional benefits as well. That same UI that's in the web browser also exists as a panel within Media Composer. Now, the beauty of that is that editors can now easily search for clips and bins across their entire Nexus workspace, not just the active project that they have open. So this is going to really accelerate the process of finding the exact right clips you need. What's really cool, continuing with the theme of openness, we've also announced that we're developing that same panel for within Adobe Premiere. So Media Central Editorial Management is really taking collaboration to a level that has never been before, and we're really excited about it. And again, that's available now.
One of the things you mentioned earlier that also has collaboration is Pro Tools, and I don't want to leave that out. How does collaboration in Pro Tools work?
As I mentioned with the Maroon 5, those guys used Avid Cloud Collaboration for Pro Tools to create their latest album. All that's needed to begin collaborating is Pro Tools software. Avid Cloud Collaboration works with the latest versions of Pro Tools First, Pro Tools, and the new Pro Tools Ultimate. So you can get the free Pro Tools First, and those users can initiate collaborations they can purchase a cloud plan for as low as $4.99 a month, so that there's a place in the cloud that the media can reside. And then it's powered by a high-performance, highly protected cloud server technology, so users can rest assured knowing that all their projects and associated audio files and data are stored safely and securely in a private space. Let me describe for just a moment how Avid Cloud Collaboration for Pro Tools works. A creative team can work together on the same Pro Tools project simultaneously. This is similar to the collaborative workflow, say, inside Microsoft Word, where multiple users can access the same document. Competing solutions, like Dropbox, for example, require a sequential workflow, which isn't ideal. So, for example, I'd have to upload files to a shared folder. My collaborator then downloads them, makes their edits, then re-uploads the new files to me for importing and then I review them. This can be really time consuming and create lots of confusion and make it very difficult to keep track of versions and that sort of thing. In Pro Tools, I can record a guitar solo while my collaborator mixes drums, all while working within the exact same project. I can push updates to my collaborators automatically or at the touch of a button. And the immediacy and integration of this workflow is truly unique to Pro Tools. It's all happening within the exact project session that's going on inside Pro Tools. So there's no extra futzing around, which really helps accelerate the whole creative process.
For people that want more information about the collaboration tools that Avid makes available, where can they go on the web?
www.avid.com, and there's more info than you can shake a stick at, Larry.
And Alan Hoff is the Vice President for Market Solutions at Avid. And Alan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Larry. That was a lot of fun.
Alissa Johnson is the Senior Product Manager at Adobe Systems for their collaboration platform. This team is delivering collaboration services that make it easier for Adobe Creative Cloud, Experience Cloud, and Marketing Cloud customers to work together. She also leads product management for team projects, which enables collaborative editing workflows in Adobe Premiere Pro, After Effects, and Adobe Media Encoder. Hello, Alissa. Welcome.
Hi, Larry. It's a pleasure to be here.
How does Adobe define collaboration?
Oh, that's an excellent first question. So we think about collaboration as really enabling people to be connected to content and activity. So it's finding ways for people to work together more effectively.
Well, what is the collaboration platform?
So Adobe is looking at how we best enable collaboration in many of our products and services. And as part of that, there are a number of underlying things that we need to put in place to support that, and that is what makes up the collaboration platform.
So it's like the foundation upon which other tools are built.
Exactly. It's the technology foundation that we can use to then enable collaboration in various kind of products and services across the company. And it is important, too, I think, in terms of the big picture, as you said, because definitely an indication that collaboration is very important to Adobe as a company.
And why is collaboration important? Because you've been single user for like the beginning of time.
Oh, absolutely. But more and more, our customers across many of the different products at Adobe are trying to get more work out more efficiently. And more they're trying to do that by working with others. And those other people that they may be working with may be down the hall or they may be across the world. And so we're finding that collaboration is increasingly important, even in areas where people had historically worked more alone.
Well, how are you implementing collaboration within Adobe's products? And the products that I'm focusing on are ones for media creators and filmmakers more than your enterprise products.
So we've done that over the last couple of years with the Team Projects collaboration service, as you mentioned earlier, embedded in the experience of Premiere Pro, After Effects, and also works with Adobe Media Encoder. We look at collaboration as kind of a spectrum of what our customers' needs are. And in some cases, we address those needs directly in the product. For example, in Premiere Pro, you can work in shared projects. So you have the option to actually lock your project, and a single editor can go in and work. Your other collaborators can view a read-only version of that project, but they can't actually edit until that person is finished and they explicitly unlock the project. So project locking is one mechanism, but Team Projects takes a different approach, and it actually allows for multi-application, multi-user, simultaneous access of a project. And so we kind of look at this as a range of what is a customer trying to accomplish, and then what's the best way to enable that.
Well, your first step into collaboration was Adobe Anywhere. What's happened to that product?
When we started working on Adobe Anywhere, the world looked very different, and we've seen a real evolution over the last few years as more and more of our customers are looking at workflows in the cloud, and we're certainly seeing more and more delivery, the content distribution happening in the cloud. And so we're hearing that there's more of a desire to get content production closer to that content distribution. So Team Project really picks up a lot of the ideas that we originally were looking at in a different frame a few years back and really making that available as a service to a much broader range of customers without having to invest in any additional infrastructure. If you want to use Team Projects, all you need is the computer that you're running Premiere Pro or After Effects on and the subscription that you have to the Creative Cloud for either teams or for enterprises. So it's really looking at customer needs around how do they have more scalable infrastructure, how can they get more efficiency out of what they already have without having to invest a lot in infrastructure itself.
Well, my understanding was Team Projects required everybody being on the same network. Is that a misunderstanding?
No, you don't have to be on the same network at all. You do need to have access to the media that's in the Team Project. But with Team Projects, you can have folks who are working from many different locations accessing the same Team Project simultaneously.
So if you had people in different geographic areas, they'd have to access proxy files stored in the cloud, or can they work with clone drives at each location?
They can do either. So they have options. We have some customers who have worked with cloned drives. Others, if they are working on projects where it makes sense, they can actually put proxy files into shared locations, whether that be in Creative Cloud itself or Dropbox or other partners, or they have a variety of mechanisms. And you can also have different team members in the same team project who have their media in different locations. So it doesn't have to be a single decision for everyone. You can have individual level media mapping.
Currently, collaboration works between Premiere and After Effects and Adobe Media Encoder. What are your plans for extending that? And I'm thinking specifically of Photoshop and Audition.
Well, I can't speak to specific plans, but we definitely are paying very close attention to what our customers are asking for in terms of where we should focus next. And, one of the ways that we're doing that as well is by integrating with partners. So as I mentioned before, we're hearing from several customers that there's a desire to get their content production closer to their content distribution and also have less investment in infrastructure. So one of the partnerships that we just announced at the NAB trade show was with Bebop technology. And that actually allows customers to use Bebop's virtualization platform and be able to use Premiere Pro and I believe After Effects and Audition are the first applications that are available there, and actually have those running on their virtualization platform. So we're looking at a lot of different things like this where we can partner with others to extend in interesting ways. And then we're also looking at which additional client applications it makes sense to add, but I can't speak to specifics around those plans right now.
Well, as someone who lives inside Audition, you have my vote to extend to Audition at your earliest opportunity.
Yes, we have heard that quite a bit, so we'll definitely take that into consideration.
What do we need in terms of hardware and network requirements to make collaboration work? Because not all of us are at enterprises and not all of us have unlimited budgets. What should we focus on in terms of prioritizing our hardware and network needs?
So that was one of the benefits for us in moving to a cloud-based service. So with Team Projects, you don't need any additional hardware aside from what you would be using if you were running Premiere Pro alone. One of the things that customers can choose to do is if they want to integrate with a media asset management system, they can, but they don't have to use the Team Project service. And then, you'll want to look at what you're doing for media storage. But again, we support many different options there, so there's a lot of flexibility. But the network requirements are very standard, and there's no special hardware that you need.
You mentioned that the world changed between the time that you released Adobe Anywhere and when you released Team Projects. What trends are you watching? I'm not looking at a product announcement, but what's caught your attention in terms of collaboration and shared work environments?
So there are a number of trends that we're looking at specifically related to collaboration. One is that people want to be able to work with talent wherever that talent happens to be. That's, again, an area where we're looking at, how do we enable people to work together in real time if they're not in the same location. So Team Projects is one of our answers for that. We're also seeing more and more a desire to get content production closer to content distribution, and that content distribution is increasingly happening in the cloud. There's a lot of interest there. We're seeing more and more pressure to produce multiple versions as there's a proliferation of content distribution platforms, and also being able to release content simultaneously worldwide with localization. We're also seeing a desire for more scalable infrastructure and more flexibility to be able to increase or decrease your infrastructure based on the kind of content or the projects you're working on. So we're also seeing, as our customers are more and more globally networked, the workflows are also distributed. Adobe is also partnered very closely with Frame.io, and I know you're speaking with them as well as part of this collaboration-focused conversation. So they have been a close partner of Adobe's as well. So we're looking at a lot of different trends that are kind of driving this, looking at some things that Amazon and others are doing in terms of what is the trend for cloud production and distribution both, and how do those two get tied together. So those are some of the things that we're tracking.
I'm seeing a giant flashing sign saying, watch this space. I have a feeling there's more stuff coming.
It's a very interesting trend, and it's not new, but it's accelerating very rapidly. I sat on a panel 2 years ago at IBC that was focused on cloud content post-production. I went and looked back at some of the notes that I had around that, and it's been fascinating to see where things have gone just in the last 2 years. So the conversations with our customers are really starting to shift a bit as people look at what does next generation content creation look like and where should they be making their investment.
So, Alissa, for people who want more information about the collaboration services that Adobe offers, where can they go on the web to learn more?
They can go to adobe.com, and there is a link to a team projects page under Creative Cloud.
And Alissa Johnson is the Senior Product Manager at Adobe Systems for their collaboration platform. Alissa, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Larry.
I want to introduce you to a new website, Thalo.com. Thalo is an artist community and networking site for creative people to connect, be inspired, and showcase their creativity. Thalo.com features content from around the world with a global perspective on all things creative. Thalo is the place for creative folks to learn, collaborate, market, and sell their works. Thalo is a part of Thalo Arts, a worldwide community of artists, filmmakers, and storytellers. From photography to filmmaking, performing arts to fine arts, and everything in between, Thalo is filled with the resources you need to succeed. Visit Thalo.com and discover how their community can help you connect, learn, and succeed. That's Thalo.com. Emery Wells is the co-founder and CEO of Frame.io, a video review and collaboration platform. Before Frame.io, Emery was an award-winning producer and self-taught visual effects supervisor. Hello, Emery. Welcome back.
Hey, Larry. How are you?
I'm really looking forward to our conversation because you have a perspective that's just unique in the industry, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. To start, how does Frame.io define collaboration?
Collaboration for us really means the facilitation of sharing media and the communication around that media. Those are really the two core pillars of collaboration. When you're creating video, you have a lot of people that are involved in the process and a lot of people that need access to media. Could be raw media, could be work in progress media, could be dailies, it could be graphics, it could be whatever it is, whatever goes into that video that you're creating, you need to share those files. So Frame.io handles that. And then you have to communicate around all of those media assets, those work in progress edits, and Frame.io facilitates that as well.
We've heard earlier in the show from both Avid and Adobe about how their products support collaboration. Where do you fit into the post-production collaboration process?
So I think the most common use case for Frame.io today is collecting feedback on work in progress edits. So those could be taking place in Media Composer or Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro or whatever you use. But you need to collect feedback from people that are sometimes in your organization, sometimes external to your organization. That's what Frame.io is really good for. So some of the other tools like Premiere and Media Composer, they might have ways where you can kind of collaborate with multiple editors within the same facility if you're actually working on editing something together. But the type of collaboration that Frame.io really focuses on is how do you interact with people who don't use the same NLE that you use and don't really need to. These are your clients, potentially other vendors that you're working with, or other kind of internal people to your organization, producers, your boss, all those kind of stakeholders that are involved in the creation process is where Frame.io really thrives.
But why do we need Frame.io? Why not just create an H.264 version of my rough cut and email it?
Well, sure, you can do that, and that's probably what you've done for a long time, and good luck to you. That's what I used to do in the early days of my post-production company. I mean, going back to the days of actually, creating DVDs for clients to review, and then eventually uploading stuff online and having more of that communication and collaboration happen over email. So here's the thing: is that email is a terrible place to be collaborative on pretty much any type of work. We all hate email. We're all trying to look for ways to get off of email and use other tools, whether it's Slack for internal communication or Asana for project management. We're just trying to get out of email. Having a creative conversation in email, which is a static document, about moving visual content is terrible because you're always trying to reference these different points in time, and there's just a disconnect between the email you're writing and the actual content you're talking about. Frame.io puts that all together in one place. So you're leaving a comment on a particular frame in the video that you're reviewing, and then you can actually do things like draw and annotate on the video frame if you need to further communicate your idea. So we just kind of bring it all together.
But the benefit to email is I've got an audit trail. I've got this thing back from the client that says they like or don't like a particular section. Does Frame.io give me the same option?
Yeah, so if they're leaving comments in Frame.io, you're going to have that same audit trail. And in fact, what we've heard from a lot of our customers is they say having Frame.io, it sort of centralizes the process, because while some of that feedback might be over email, some of that feedback might be on a phone call or even in a text message, depending on what kind of relationship you have with the people you're working with. So it can often be scattered because there's not really one central place to collect that feedback. And when you start using Frame.io, it becomes that home base. And so really more of the feedback is captured and is auditable in Frame.io.
Walk me through the integration process. Let's say I'm using Adobe Premiere. Mm-hmm. I've created a rough cut, and I've got, say, a client that doesn't have Premiere.
Right.
How do I integrate Frame.io with the review process?
So we have an Adobe Premiere panel. Once you install it, you basically have the entire Frame.io experience inside of Adobe Premiere. So you'd start with uploading your sequence. We allow you to choose some options like uploading the entire sequence or an into out. But you get your sequence into Frame.io, and now anybody that has access to that Frame.io project can start watching it, and they can be accessing it. So say it's your client, they can be accessing it from our web application or from our iOS application, which we won an Apple Design Award for, and they can start watching it and leaving comments. And the key workflow is when they leave a comment, it actually pops up in Premiere in real time. And you can click on that comment and get taken directly to the frame in your timeline where the client left the comment. Say you're working on a music video and a client says, hey, this cut is off the beat. And they leave that comment on that frame, and you click on it, and now you're on that same frame in Premiere. You see what they're talking about. You make that little edit. The client doesn't have to know anything about Premiere. They don't know that you even have Premiere open, and you're able to then re-upload, and it'll automatically version. The client gets a notification, hey, the next version's up, and you can kind of continue that iterative process. So a cycle that may have taken hours, days, or weeks can be kind of down to minutes. And the reason that it happens so much quicker on Frame.io is really because we reduce the feedback paralysis. If I were to send you a video and asked you for feedback, you would immediately have all kinds of thoughts and feedback that would be easy to communicate in person if you were able to kind of scrub around the video and say, hey, this thing here and this thing there. But when you're forced to write about it in an email, it becomes kind of hard to articulate and sort of frustrating. And so it leads to just feedback paralysis. You say, you know what, I'll just wait until I see you in person tomorrow or the next day. And by having a tool like Frame.io, it empowers people to just give feedback immediately and really accelerate that entire iterative process.
You used a phrase, though, that is a stumbling block for many, in that I have to upload my video from Premiere, in our example, or Avid, or Final Cut 10,
right.
Upload the video to Frame.io. But I'm shooting 4K HDR material. I can't afford to upload a 500 gigabyte file. What's my options?
Depends on what you're using Frame.io for, but if you're using it for work in progress review, then you would upload an H.264, and that's, that we give you the option to choose what format you want to upload in when you're uploading. We're actually just using Adobe Media Encoder presets. So we have a preset called Web 720, which is just a 720 H.264, or you could feed it your own Adobe Media Encoder preset and upload a small file. In a different case, you may want to actually upload a high-res file, and that's something that you can do with Frame.io. We have an accelerated uploader, so it's designed for uploading large files. We certainly see a lot of people doing that also. Just depends on what you want to do, what you need to do, what your internet connection is. So if you have the speeds, a lot of people have gigabit internet connections or 500 megabit connections. You can actually upload pretty sizable amount of material. It's funny, Larry, we've both been doing post-production for a long time, and when I started doing post-production, it was FireWire 400. Mm-hmm. And that was the predominant connection. Today, most people have internet speeds that are as fast as FireWire 400. That's the speed that you're transferring data over the internet. So just kind of a fun tidbit. But the internet's going to get faster and faster, and you're going to be able to upload those very large files.
I wish that were true. I think I've got an internet connection that's about FireWire 2, so I'm envious of people with FireWire 400 speeds. One of the things I enjoy getting is your email blasts, and not only some wonderful behind-the-scenes discussions of how Frame.io is used, but you also announced some new versions that came out just a couple weeks ago. What's the new news?
We just announced new image review tools, and when we launched Frame.io, we've always been focused on solving video collaboration. But it turns out that when you create video, you actually have to work with all types of different creative assets. You're working with lots of images, maybe graphical assets. Maybe you're doing location scouts or other types of photo shoots that are all kind of part of a video creation process. And so we introduced some new image review tools that make it just as easy to collaborate and review images as it does video. And so specifically what that means is we now support super high resolution image previews. You can upload all kinds of different RAW formats or DPX or EXR or JPEG, TIFF, all those different formats. And we generate a full resolution preview that you can zoom in and out of. We have a loop tool. Just makes it really easy to work with images and kind of makes images a first-class citizen in Frame.io.
How do you see collaboration evolving in the future? Are we going to see all of collaboration integrated inside our editing tools, or is there a long-term market for what Frame.io is doing?
So within the editing tools, I think we're going to continue to see a lot more collaboration happen, but that solves part of the collaboration need, which is going to be, kind of internal to your facility or from editor to editor, maybe if it's even over the web. But there's still going to be a need to kind of connect that creative process with people who are not directly, doing the work, not the editors. And that's where Frame.io will always have a place. But I think in general, what we're seeing is, more of the post-production process shifting to the cloud, and it's only the very early stages of that. But if you think about the tools that we use to create video today, we're in this desktop era, very disconnected tools, not connected to the internet. This is early Microsoft Word days. This is having to share a Word document every time we want to show somebody something, whereas today we just all real-time collaboratively type in Google Docs. I think that it's inevitable that we get to that same place for video. It's just a matter of when, and I think that over the next 3 to 5 years, there's going to be a couple companies that start sort of showing that this is a real kind of possibility, a real way of working, where you can just kind of fire up your laptop, go to a link, and your whole editing environment is open and you're ready to go.
I'm reminded of the early days of computing where we had one mainframe and a bunch of terminals hanging off it. And that was successful until we shifted to the personal computer where everybody had the computer on their desk. Now it seems like we're moving back to centralized processing with terminals hanging off. Are you seeing a circular nature here?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And I think that it's really about, what the kind of most optimal solution for the time was. For a long time, we saw a great benefit in having kind of all the power in our personal computers. But as the internet has gotten faster and the cloud architectures have gotten more mature, we're starting to really kind of index for the work from anywhere and work more collaboratively in real time with a group of disconnected people that are connected through the internet. So moving back to that kind of mainframe terminal architecture. Absolutely.
Before I let you go, how is Frame.io priced? What's my starting entry point?
Starting at free, actually. So you can actually sign up and start using Frame.io for free. And then the entry-level paid plan is $15 a month. And then we have a couple different plans depending on your needs, how many people you're working with, how much storage you need, things like that.
And for people that want to learn more about the products and services Frame.io offers, where can they go on the web?
You can just head right over to frame.io.
That's frame.io, not .com, frame.io. And Emery Wells is the co-founder and CEO of Frame.io. And Emery, it is always fun visiting. Thank you for sharing your time.
Thanks a lot, Larry.
I was just thinking, we've always been collaborating in media. It's just that now we have software that enables us to collaborate with more people across greater distances faster. In every media project I've ever been involved with, my favorite part is building the team and figuring out how to enable everyone to get their work done efficiently. In the past, this involved a lot of meetings, phone calls, and writing. Today, collaboration revolves less around meetings and more around monitors. Software and the hardware that supports it is the unifying force tying us all together. But as Emery made clear, the tools that unite us are only as effective as our internet connection speed. For those with a fast connection, collaboration is both efficient and effortless. But for those with a slower connection or are off the grid, collaboration becomes a painful exercise in patience. I'm also troubled by potential abuse of collaboration tools. Google and Microsoft have both routinely scanned emails for content, and there's concern the same may be true for Google Docs. All our online activity is being tracked far too often by far too many companies, with the scandals at Facebook coming immediately to mind. One of the core principles of any team is providing a safe place to discuss issues related to the project. That becomes increasingly hard to do if everyone in the group needs to look over their shoulder to see who's listening. This is why I continue to be impressed with Apple's commitment to improving security and privacy. At the Worldwide Developer Conference keynote last Monday, Apple announced embedded technology in Mac OS Mojave that will block trackers and fingerprinting in Safari, as well as secure other essential data on both our phones and computers. Collaboration is increasingly necessary in today's media world of shorter deadlines, widely dispersed teams, and massively complex projects. But collaboration will fail if we can't trust the tools that we use, and building that trust is on the shoulders of developers. Just something I'm thinking about. I want to thank our guests for this week: Alan Hoff with Avid, Alissa Johnson with Adobe, Emery Wells with Frame.io, Tim Standing with OWC, and James DeRuvo with doddleNEWS.com. There's a lot of history in our industry, and it's all posted to our website at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Here you'll find thousands of interviews, all online and all available to you today. And remember to sign up for our free weekly show newsletter that comes out every Saturday morning. Talk with us on Twitter at DPBuzz and Facebook at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Our theme music is composed by Nathan Dookie Turner with additional music provided by smartsound.com. Our producer is Debbie Price. My name is Larry Jordan, and thanks for listening to the Digital Production Buzz. The Digital Production Buzz is copyright 2018 by Thalo LLC.